Hi, my name is Victoria Kellogg, and this is my Capstone Reflection. So first to start off, freshman year of high school, I was in honors written and oral and composition. And the books we covered were Lord of the Flies, Animal Farm, The Catcher in the Rye, To Kill a Mockingbird, Inherit the Wind, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, Blackboard, and then we did a book talk. I chose the book Ultraviolet. So our units of study were movie analysis, narrative, a public service announcement project, spoken word poetry, a book talk, book analysis, and we used writing to improve our grammar, and then we used vocabulary in order to expand vocabulary and have more sophisticated language. So here's some of my work in honors written oral and communications. So overall, I kind of lacked sophistication in my thesis statements, and it didn't really represent a deeper analysis. I did have some grammar errors, and I had poor integration of quotes. As you can see with these two thesis statements, they're very concise and don't really go in depth. Although they are arguable, they just don't seem very sophisticated. Over here, I did make a grammar error where I add a semicolon where there didn't make sense to add a semicolon there. And then over here, I had poor integration of quotes. I set off the quotes with a colon, and then here I set it off by saying opposition, religion, saying, and then I set off the quotes. So I didn't really integrate it very well. Sophomore year, I was in honors world literature, and we read Purple Hibiscus, Night, Macbeth, and we also studied the Metamorphosis. So units of study were rhetorical analysis, poetry analysis, narratives, focus instruction, rhythm, and again we used narrating and vocabulary. So here's some of my work. Overall, I learned to analyze the use of literary devices and the meaning of it. I had better integration of evidence and better grammar. Personally, I thought narrating helped me better sophomore year because it allowed me to learn like subject-verb agreement, parallelism, things like that, versus like things I already knew with basic grammar. So over here, this is my narrative piece, and I was just very descriptive, used really good imagery, and it really had a way with words. And I had actually submitted this into the literary festival, and I ended up getting second place. So that was cool. So here, as you can see, I integrate the quotes a lot better, where I put them in the middle of the sentence and explain it, rather than just setting it off and listing it. Over here, I introduced the thesis statement pretty well. So basically, my thesis statement is the speaker's despairing and somber mindset portrays that when people are drowned with agony and betrayal, then often they lose hope, but their scars and bruises become a paradigm for fulfilling their purpose. And then this was actually one of my favorite essays I've ever written. I just thought I was very sophisticated. I explained the use of literary devices very well. I analyzed a poem by Linda Paston called Agoraphobia, and I talked about how she utilized imagery, shift from buoyant to despondent diction, figurative language to demonstrate the speaker's timorous yet composed attitude. The speaker describes her fear of leaving the home that warms her mind and infuses her with comfort. Paston demonstrates that when people live in a shadow of fear, then they often seek solace in a fictitious sense of security, which hinders them from venturing into the world. The overpowering isolation creates a prison that shrinks the circle of authentic human connection. And originally, when I had read this, I thought that maybe my thesis statement was a little too long, but I spoke with my teacher at the time, and she thought it was good. So junior year, I was an AP Lang first semester, and then I switched to Advanced American Literature second semester just because I'd missed 5 months of school. So it was difficult to catch up given that was remote, first of all, and second of all, just how heavy the AP Lang content was given we did an essay every single week. So so in Advanced American Literature, we did The Great Gatsby and All Quiet on the Western Front, and then we also did study Lemonade. So this unit's study focused on synthesis, rhetorical analysis, and argumentative essays, commentary and sources, timed essays, and analysis of media. So I had better integration of evidence, more sophisticated language, more developed thesis statements, the ability to demonstrate understanding of sources, and using outside evidence. So in this piece, I use outside evidence. I was arguing like Payne's argument, and then I brought up outside evidence with strength in my writing. As you can see in this one, I integrated the quotes a lot better, added them into the middle of my writing, and I also brought up like the opposing sides and how their reasoning has several flaws. And this one, I do a good job of creating a thesis. I set it up pretty well. And then I talk about in order to combat the ravaging nature of mental health issues amidst the pandemic, the government should vocalize concern and take action to provide people with mental health support by being adamant about funding mental health research, education, and resources. And this one, I did a good job like connecting and utilizing my sources in order to analyze the text. And then this one, I just thought that kind of the way I worded this was very sophisticated and had deep analysis. And this is from my Lemonade ACV project I did in Advanced American Literature, and I focused on the forgiveness chapter and strengthened my ability to analyze mood and symbolism from visuals, and I was able to be introduced to the use of literary devices through films. So I talked about how Beyonce illustrated a paradigm of this injustice, representing the strength and power of blacks with her juxtaposition of conventional femininity and with violent destruction. And through the various identities, it symbolized empowerment of black women, and she used extended prison visuals to be proactive. And then over here, talked about the symbolism of her being in the water. She cleansed herself just how Jesus was baptized, and how the shadows that were dark represent the betrayal. And then Syria, we covered The Blue Sky, Hamlet, we did a study of groceries, we covered Lemonade again, and then we did podcasts on the issues. So I was able to analyze text verbally through the podcast, approach AP prompts, do in-depth character analysis of how everything connects to the text as a whole, analysis of line breaks and stressed and unstressed syllables, such as through the assignment we did with sonnets, and I was able to contribute with peers. So here's an example of some of my work. So in this one, I just had a really good insight into the podcast and connected how Gertrude's death mirrored the death of Hamlet's protection because he was defenseless and couldn't hide behind her, and that shield was broken when she died. Over here, I talked about how Piccola drinking the milk symbolizes youth and maternity, and how the lack of it was she didn't have a love with her mother. It wasn't nurturing, so she drank the milk in order to get that comfort. Here I talk about how Charlie became the oppressor and how he wanted to prove his masculinity. And then here I went really in depth with what the worm and the beggar meant, basically saying that they all end up equal and they all end up with the same fate of death. Here I did a good job using the dandelion scene to talk about, like connected to the book as a whole. And then here I just, I liked how I brought up the use of metonymy. That was something new I learned from my Hamlet essay. And then with the metonymy, I further explained it here where I said it substituted the death with the notion of sleeping to describe the eternal sleep that occurs when dead. And that he repeats it in order to kind of say that it's preferable to dream than to die because the afterlife is unknown and eerie. So overall, my work became more sophisticated. I was able to provide deeper analysis and just really go in depth with my thoughts, think more outside the box, and more I'm more like a true analyst. Overall, I believe that I deserve an A for this class. I had really good, impressive oral essays. I reflected on discussions, collaborating my ideas with peers, ideas to understand, deepen understanding. I played a real leadership role for podcast scripts. I participated in group discussions and volunteered to do that myself. Put 100% effort into every assignment. I never did the bare minimum. You can tell because all my journals were very lengthy. I stayed on task and I was focused and driven to get caught up. And I actually did take some other English classes. So debate 1, I took freshman year. Debate 2, I took sophomore year, and basically helped me improve my argumentative skills, allowed me to think critically by trying to think what the opposing side would say to refute it. It enabled me to gain more insight and alleviate my social anxiety. And then I took creative writing this year as a senior. It allowed me to explore different genres beyond poetry, brought me out of my comfort zone, strengthened my writing skills and creativity, made me grow even more passionate for writing, challenged my perfectionism, increased my confidence in my writing, allowed me to be vulnerable and make my stories more powerful and touching. And I actually did get my creative nonfiction piece published. So thank you for listening to my presentation.